Cars brought a new standard of realism to animated films. It was the first Pixar feature to utilize a technique known as ray tracing, which properly renders the way light passes through and collides with surfaces. More simply, it enables artists to accurately depict reflections without having to go through and paint them individually. Ray tracing takes up a massive amount of computer power. As a result, each frame, or about 1/24th of a second, of Cars took an average of 17 hours to render, some frames taking up to a week. The final balloon count in Up was 10,297. You can stop counting now. The film's effects artists John Risch and Eric Fromling have done the work for you. The entire canopy is filled with balloons. We didn't just simulate the outer shell. Beneath the outer layer of balloons you see tugging the house are several more layers, each as carefully animated as the first, to be no gaps and to be more realistic. Delays with The Good Dinosaur meant there was no Pixar movie in 2014. Since the release of Cars in 2006, Pixar has been diligent about releasing one movie per year. The one notable exception was in 2014, when delays with The Good Dinosaurs forced the studio to push back the film's release date to 2015. Originally, it was Bob Peterson at the helm of The Good Dinosaur, but in 2013, the studio replaced him, and Pixar president Ed Catmull said that all directors get really deep in their films, and sometimes you just need a different perspective to get the idea out. Sometimes directors are so deeply embedded in their ideas, it actually takes someone else to finish it up. I would go so far as to argue that a lot of live-action films would be better off with the same process. It wasn't the first time Pixar made a director switch in midst of production. Peterson's removal was the fourth time it had happened at Pixar, but the change in director led to a delay in the schedule, forcing Pixar to release 0 movies in 2014 and 2 of them in 2015. The Good Dinosaur was released 5 months after Inside Out. Every Pixar film has Easter eggs and references. While films can sometimes reference other films, is certain with every Pixar outing. In 1996, the studio's first short, Luxo Jr., featured the Luxo Ball. The toy made a cameo in Pixar's first feature film, Toy Story. Since then, the studio has put Pixar references and Easter eggs in all of their films. One of the most popular nods is the pizza truck from Toy Story, which has appeared in most Pixar films over the years. Other references are more subtle. Keen fans will notice A113 throughout Pixar stories. A113 is a room used by the animation department at CalArts, a school some Pixar animators attended and started the trend. WALL-E is the first Pixar film to feature live action. The company has always been an unconventional animation studio, and 2008's WALL-E is further proof. Apart from featuring a beautiful story, the sci-fi adventure features the first use of live action in any of Pixar films. There are several scenes, but the best example is when WALL-E watches the film Hello, Dolly. After negotiating with 20th Century Fox, clips were used to create the classic cinematic moment. Actor John Ratzenberger voiced for every film. After a 20-year stint with live action roles, John Ratzenberger, famous for Cheers, voiced Ham the piggy bank in Toy Story. He did a few more live-action films before returning to Pixar for its second film, A Bug's Life in '98. He would repeat this until he had a role, main or minor, in every Pixar film since then. His long tenure was made fun of in the end credits of Cars, where his character praises Ratzenberger voiced characters before criticizing the fact that one actor played all of them. Up's opening scene originally had dialogue. One of the most beloved parts of 2009's Up is the opening sequence showing the relationship between Ellie and Carl. Apart from being an emotional rollercoaster, the scene is notable for its lack of dialogue. Despite its iconic status now, the scene wasn't always so mute. Originally, the sequence had moments of the characters completing each other's sentences along with other noises. But after a suggestion from story supervisor Ronnie Del Carmen, director Pete Docter, whose daughter, Elizabeth Docter, actually voiced Ellie. He had the tough job of cutting the dialogue and sound effects out. He recalled his parents' silent home movies as an inspiration. One popular Toy Story fan theory concludes that Emily, the little girl who owned the Jessie Cowgirl doll in Toy Story 2, is actually Andy's mother. Toy Story has 2 references to Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. One is that Buzz Lightyear's mission is similar to that of R2-D2. Both have important information in their possession about weaknesses in a dangerous weapon that they must get to a higher authority. The other reference to A New Hope is seen when Sid is torturing Woody. The lines are the same ones uttered by Darth Vader as he interrogates Princess Leia. Toy Story 2 made almost 245 million in the domestic box office and was the first sequel to make more than the original. The character of Sid Phillips, the vicious toy-destroying bully in Toy Story, is said to be inspired by a former Pixar employee of the same name. He was known to disassemble toys and use the parts to build bizarre creations. The carpet in Sid's house has the same hexagonal pattern as the carpet in the hotel from the 1990s horror film The Shining. Toy Story 3 was the highest grossing film in the Toy Story franchise and the third highest grossing family film of all time. It was the highest grossing film. It was surpassed by a few tens of millions by Toy Story 4. A Bug's Life used almost 10 times the computing power that Toy Story required. Each frame of the film took 17 hours to render, and even though Pixar had been working on A Bug's Life for much longer, DreamWorks released Ants a month before the former film's release. It was suspected that DreamWorks head Jeffrey Katzenberg encouraged animators to work longer hours to beat Pixar. Katzenberger offered to hold on the production of Ants if Pixar would change the release date of A Bug's Life. The Pixar film was scheduled to be released in the same month as The Prince of Egypt, DreamWorks' first animated feature, and an awesome animated feature if you ask me. Pixar refused. There are at least 100 different races of monsters in Monsters Inc. and actor Billy Crystal got the role of Mike in Monsters Inc. after refusing to voice the part of Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story. Crystal said he had regrets about not saying yes to the first role. The production crew of Finding Nemo were all required to visit aquariums, go diving in Hawaii and Monterey, participate in study sessions in front of Pixar's own 25-gallon fish tank, and listen to in-house lectures from an ichthyologist. Following its release in 2003, Finding Nemo became the highest-grossing animated film in North America and the first film to outgross The Lion King in nearly a decade. A plumbing company released a warning against flushing your fish down the toilet to set your fish free, an event that happens in Finding Nemo. In truth, no one would ever find Nemo, and the movie would be called Grinding Nemo. The character of Edna, the superhero costume designer in The Incredibles, is based off Academy Award-winning Hollywood fashion designer Edith Head. Head costumed many of the most iconic Hollywood starlets during her career, including Audrey Hepburn, Grace Kelly, Jane Fonda, and Kim Novak. In preparations for Ratatouille, director Brad Bird interned at Chef Thomas Keller's famous French Laundry, a Michelin 3-star restaurant in Yountville, California. Pet rats were kept at Pixar for a year so animators could study their movements for Ratatouille. The movie broke the record for the biggest debut for an animated film in France, where the film is set. Chef Anthony Bourdain told Michael Roman that Ratatouille was simply the best food movie ever made. Bourdain said the tiny details in the film, such as the burn marks on the chef's wrists, were astonishing. Bird asked a female animator to work on the character of Colette in Ratatouille. We gave the character of the female chef Colette to a female animator because she would relate to what it is like to be a woman in a male-dominated industry. The wine ordered by Anton Ego, the villainous food critic in Ratatouille, is a real wine and would be more than $2,000 if ordered at a restaurant in the States. Ratatouille ran into issues with marketing tie-ins because no food companies wanted to be associated with a rat. Costco originally planned on selling Ratatouille-themed wine, but the Wine Institute convinced Disney to pull it from the shelves because it might encourage underage drinking. Charlie Muntz, the villain in Up, is named after a Universal Pictures executive who in 1928 stole the production rights to Walt Disney's Oswald the Lucky Rabbit cartoon series. When Carl and Ellie go picnicking in Up, they chose the same tree seen in A Bug's Life. Up was the first animated and first 3D film to open in the Cannes Film Festival. The character of Russell in Up is the first Japanese-American character in a Pixar film to be voiced by an actual Asian-American actor, Jordan Nagai. The meaning of WALL-E, trash collection robot who is the main protagonist of WALL-E, is literal. WALL-E stands for Waste Allocation Load Lifter Earth Class. All robots in WALL-E follow Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. A robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And finally, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second laws. The writers considered up to 27 different emotions to be featured in Inside Out. Some of the emotions that got the X included surprise and trust. Director Peter Docter said he got the inspiration for Inside Out from watching his daughter age through adolescence. Inside Out only used 45 animators, which is about half the amount of other Pixar films. The emotion, disgust and sadness in Inside Out are depicted by actresses Mindy Kaling and Phyllis Smith, who also starred together in the TV series The Office. Dory is the most liked Pixar character on Facebook. She has more likes than Nemo. The setting of Finding Dory was changed from aquatic park to a marine biology institute after the Pixar crew saw the 2013 documentary Blackfish, and Disney attempted to trademark the Spanish phrase Dia de los Muertos for Coco merchandising purposes, which drew sharp criticism from the Latino community on social media. For good reason. The last two movies Pixar released during the pandemic did not receive theatrical releases, they were seen at home, unfortunately. So if you get the chance, go watch Luca and Soul, they are great movies. Soul tells the story of a life that could have been, and Luca offers some much needed hope in this day and age. That's all for today. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe. I'd like to thank everybody that watched this series of videos on Pixar. It's my favorite company. I like DreamWorks movies as well. That's all. I'm Alex, and until next time, watch great movies.